Welcome once again to the Sage. And thank you again for being with us as usual. Your presence is always so important. Today, I feel nostalgic as I go back to a system that was home to me, perhaps, for almost 20 years, a little less than 20 years, to discussing the issues of the United Nations. What is the United Nations? The United Nations is a global partnership of perhaps approximately 193 countries worldwide. Set up in 1945 and therefore made up of member states with a major function of many things, including peace and security, international cooperation and collaboration, social and economic development, fostering all of this, issues of human rights, gender, human rights, issues of humanitarian assistance, and so many more. It provides the single largest global platform where its 193 member states can come together to discuss issues of global concern and global cooperation, and indeed foster health, development, peace, security in the world. It's an organization dear to me, and I confess I retired a few years from and spent a great deal of my life working within the ambit of the UN, doing my little bit to assist in their wonderful and huge mandate. A few months ago on the Sage, we had a singular honor and privilege of discussing and having a wonderful time with an Under Secretary General of the UN, Dr. Natalia Kanem, who appeared on the Sage and had lovely long conversations with us. Join me as in excitement, feeling specially privileged, I introduce you to my guests today, to no less than Dr. Natalia Kanem, the Executive Director of UNFPA and Under Secretary General.
UNFPA represents the best of the United Nations when we think about the job that we have to do by 2030. To leave no one behind means paying attention to those who otherwise would be ignored, would be marginalized.
And so in this show, we continue that tradition. We shall, in the near future, be bringing to you many more UN personnel, both at the global and national level, to discuss those very, very issues of the UN, but which are in essence issues important for each one of us, for each country in the world, and therefore for each individual in those countries. Today, it is with pleasure that we continue on that journey of discovery, this time within the ambits, within the framework of what the United Nations does. We've brought in a guest to talk to you. A guest that will be focusing on what we call SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals. These goals are many in number. Our guest will discuss more of that in detail. But these goals are the framework, they form the framework under which all the member states in the UN work as a mechanism of fostering progress and development within their individual nations. And so to discuss this very, very important framework of the Sustainable Development. Join me as we bring a lady with a great deal of knowledge in this area because of her work, devoted totally to the issue of the SDGs. Stay with us. You'll enjoy it. Welcome once again to The Sage. Now we come to the exciting part. I promised before we took a break to introduce you to our treasure, to our wonderful guest, who's going to discuss in some more detail the issues of the UN, but particularly the issue of the Sustainable Development Goals, which guide the work of the member states of the UN. And so please join me as we welcome Professor Echendu Dolly Adinma to the set. Welcome.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Professor Adinma is not a new person to us. We've had the privilege of hosting her some time ago when she very, very beautifully discussed the issues of education as a strategic tool for nation building. But once again, welcome in your role as the director of the Center for Sustainable Development Goals of Nnamdi Azikiwe University. Again, welcome.
Thank you very much.
But we must never underrate your huge achievements, so give me a few minutes while I introduce you to our guests and read a very short bio of yours. Professor Dolly Echendu Adinma is a professor of community medicine stroke public health. She's a fellow of the West African College of Physicians and a fellow of the National Postgraduate Medical College of Nigeria. She's a professor of medicine, has been a lecturer for many, many years at Nnamdi Azikiwe University. She's reviewed so many publications, she's produced so many indexed publications and technical reports and book chapters. She's been the head of the Department of Community Medicine of Nnamdi Azikiwe University, a past coordinator of primary health care in the university, a past coordinator of the residency training, a past secretary of the West African College of Physicians, faculty secretary, a past chairman of the West African College of Physicians Nigeria chapter, and so many, many more. I could go on listing, but let me leave it at that. Let me also, however, say that in addition to her many illustrious roles and achievements within the institution, she's been a past national president of the Medical Women Association of Nigeria, the Association of Women Doctors. And then, when you are accomplished, you are accomplished. So her accomplishments have not just been in terms of work and profession. She's also a titled traditional woman holder in her hometown. She's what is called an Inyom Ugo Di Ebube, glorious eagle. And last but certainly not the least, she is married to an accomplished professor of gynecology and obstetrics, Professor Brian Adinma, has 5 lovely children and 7 beautiful grandchildren. Because I'm sentimental to that, I have a bias. I think the grandchildren accomplishment is the best. So well done, Professor Adinma, and thank you for again gracing the Sage.
Thank you.
You are the current director of the Center for Sustainable Development Goals of Nnamdi Azikiwe University. Tell us, what is that center?
Center for Sustainable Development, for short, CSD. It's one of the prime centers, or you can call it directorates, in Nnamdi Azikiwe University, located in Awka, the capital city of Anambra State, southeast Nigeria. Center for Sustainable Development was established 12 years ago in the university. A very renowned professor of the university, a former vice chancellor of the University of Agric, came over to Nnamdi Azikiwe University and wrote a proposal for the establishment of this Center for Sustainable Development in the person of Emeritus Professor Echendu, a renowned professor of chemistry. So the proposal had to pass through the usual process of appraisal by the university committee. Eventually, the proposal scaled through and was ratified by the Senate of the university precisely in September 2011. So that was the year the center came to be. And the main mandate or objective of the center is to serve providing a transdisciplinary, multidisciplinary platform for the university to engage in issues of sustainable development or issues of improving need for education in the nation, as well as to address the issues of research and innovation for the university. So essentially that was the major mandates of the center.
Sorry, hold your thought where it is, but let me intervene and say something I should also have added at the beginning, is that the Sustainable Development Goal and Framework is of the UN, but it provides a framework through which each of the countries try to work towards their own development. And therefore, what that means at the country level is that each country tries to adapt those agreed upon goals within the framework to their various sectors, whether it's health or labor or employment or poverty and so on. And each key stakeholders within each country then also need to be a part of moving that agenda forward. And you in the university sector is a beautiful example of the non-public sector, so to say, or of partners engaging in moving the agenda of the Sustainable Development Framework. And so that is beautiful. I'm trying to provide context for the fact that Nnamdi Azikiwe is one of the university that has taken this bold step, bringing home the Sustainable Development agenda to its university.
Maybe I should take us further back memory lane. As you said, the UN attention was drawn in 1972 on the issues of environmental ravage cutting across mainly in the developed countries because of increased industrialization. So in 1972, UN attention was drawn to that. Much later, in 1994, you recall the ICPD conference that held in Cairo, International Conference on Population and Development.
Tell me about it.
That conference actually added a human rights approach to the developmental problems which the UN has started in 1972. And that culminated to Millennium Declaration, of which Nigeria was part of the signatories to that to the declaration. So eventually, we now had the MDGs, Millennium Development Goals, which ran between 2015 to 2000 to 2015. By the close of 2015, the UN also realized that we haven't really gotten where we should be, and then there was another meeting where we now came up with the Sustainable Development Goals. We started end of that 2015 and it's going to end in 2030.
And before then, there was the MDGs, the Millennium. Do you remember
Yeah,
that?
the Millennium
Different goals.
I talked about.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Through 2000 to 2015 before the 2015-2030 SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals.
Yeah.
And what are these sustainable development? Sustainable development, if I should put it in a layman's form, is telling us, let us use the world resources in such a way that we don't compromise their usage in further generations. Resources should be used in such a way that we don't compromise the usage of those same resources by future generations. And it hinges on 17 goals, 169 targets, and 232 indicators, which actually covers what we call 5 pillars. And what are those pillars? The 5 pillars are the people, the planets, the prosperity, the peace, and partnership of nations. So these are the 5 P's that we regard as the 5 pillars of sustainable development. So that is where the university is now coming into and having centers for sustainable development. For my particular university, I've been in office. I'm the third substantive director
On the center.
of the center. Yeah, the first director was the person who made the proposal, the initiator of that proposal, Emeritus Professor Echendu. He did his bit between that 2011 to 2019. Then the second substantive director took over in 2019, Professor Felicia Ayogu, a professor of law in our university. Her tenure was between that 2019 to last year, 2022. Last year, Vice Chancellor, Professor Charles Echendu graciously located me from the main campus of our university. I said I should come over to the main campus, which is in Oka. So he appointed me the third substantive director of our Center for Sustainable Development.
Shows his wisdom.
Wow. I'm sure he didn't make he wasn't wrong in the choice. So I've been in office since that February 2022, and unfortunately for me, the Nigerian factor struck. Just barely a week I took over. We went on ASU strike.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
Center almost became redundant. Not until end of last year that we now finally found our feet. So when I came on board, I said to myself, I must have a strategic plan. So after the ASU strike, I did a little strategic plan for the center for just 1 year, because my tenure, unless it is renewed by the Vice Chancellor.
Okay, the tenure is for how long? Usually.
Discussion of the Vice Chancellor.
Okay.
As I said, the pioneer director was there for 8 years, the second director was there for 4 years, and I'm just doing like 1 year now. So I did a strategic plan for the center. Most of the activities are can I tell you some of the activities we've been able to conduct?
Yeah, so great. Well, were there any major achievements before you took on?
Yeah, all the 2 past directors did their own bits in terms of research, innovation, conferences. So when I took over, I started by looking at the staff, whether they really know why they are here. We have 3 main people that are permanent, almost like permanent in the center. The director, permanent in quotes. the key players.
Yeah, full time sort of.
The key players are the director, the deputy director, and the secretary. Then you have ad hoc staff, administrative staff, secretarial staff. We also have what we call research associates to the center. These are people who belong to almost all the faculties in the university. Professors, by the way, and senior lecturers. We call them research associates because these are the people who actually help in conducting the activities of the center. I resumed duties last year, and I started by having a strategic plan mapped out for the center. We also impact on reorientation of the staff of the center because some of them were just there not trained, so I needed to guide them for the purpose of being in the center. These are the things you need to do, irrespective of the riot outs, so to say, that the universities took place in her condition of service, for you to know your job description, for you to be able to know when you commit an act that should be considered as misconduct, and the appropriate punishments and disciplinary actions that will be taken against you. If I see you not doing what you're supposed to do, you already know that you have faulted. So we did that orientation workshop for them to do with their conditions of service, issues of rights, civic-com, and then issues of discipline.
I think all of civil service needs that.
Actually, it is just a reminder that when you know the punishment that will be meted on you. We concluded on that, and then we went into publication.
Okay.
We had a book series. My predecessor had done 2 editions of the publication. We call it CFD, University Book Series.
Okay.
Yeah. So we published the 3rd edition this year, any part of this year.
What are the series? What were the series on?
Actually, we threw out an advert for people to submit abstracts on issues of sustainability.
Okay.
Yeah, so we have several quality abstracts which we submitted to peer review and we published. After that 3rd edition publication of the book series, we now went into branch writing workshops. Because as I told you, I have research associates in the center, drawn from virtually all the faculties in the university. Most of them were not very conversant with brand writing, how to package